Were those sirens? I just realized. On Kashima's soul, you're doing 2 today. Don't let Kashima die. What the fuck? Why are you betting Kashima's life? Nope. All right. Blood bets on everyone's life all the time, bro. It's a problem. Why doesn't he ever bet on his life, huh? Alright. About homing ability and homesickness. Homing ability? What is Oishiro-sama's got a missile? If you interpret homing ability in a broad sense, you can say that most animals have a homing ability. It's the same with humans. We like to sleep, rest, and eat at a place where we feel comfortable, namely our homes. Your home is to you what nests are to animals. I see why Tori's not behind us today, because the Miku took it over. Therefore, we can say that humans have a homing ability as well. First of all, why do animals need nests? The answer is the same as for humans. Sleeping, resting, and eating are the essential actions for survival. At the same time, those actions leave one defenseless as well. That's why you need a safe area where you can be defenseless. Defenseless anus? Everybody knows that not having this safe area results in a high level of stress. When you move, it's a reference, chat. It's a Fate reference, okay? You wouldn't know. When you move an animal to a new environment, it naturally becomes stressed. Hey, the ones that get that reference are based. When you force a person to live in a foreign land where they aren't comfortable, they become greatly stressed as well. Everybody also knows that this kind of stress is called homesickness. The Japanese don't know much about homesickness. We define it as a mental weakness and we neglect to treat it for a long period of time. However, homesickness has a very long history. In Europe's Middle Ages, people believed that it wasn't a mental but rather a physical disease. People also believed that out of everyone, the Swiss got the disease the most. Why? What's wrong with the Swiss? The Swiss, you see, were known to be an ethnic group that worked away from home in that era. They lived far away from their homes. There were no telephones at the time, so they couldn't even hear their families' voices for ages and ages. It's easy to imagine that the young Swiss workers got homesick while working in a strange land. These Swiss who got sick, homesick, wanted to go home. But they couldn't because of their jobs. The conflict made them weak physically and mentally. Some of them went crazy and tried to escape from their reality by committing suicide or running away. The Swiss at the time were very superstitious, and many folk remedies and occult-like treatments to prevent homesickness went around. Since going home was the only treatment, they must have called it a fatal disease. But it isn't really one, of course. Specifically, homesickness is a sign of that human homing instinct. Your brain desires to go back to your safe area, namely your home. At first, your brain makes you remember. I mean, I'm kind of like this in that, like, I don't really like to take a dump in, like, public bathrooms, especially if it's, like, not that clean. I would prefer to, like, take a dump at home, you know? Why not? Listen, if it's like a hotel and I know, and like a really clean restaurant, I know the bathroom's good, then like sure. But if it's like, especially like in America where like I know most bathrooms are nasty as fuck, I would rather just go to the bathroom at home, you know? Like in Asia, when like they have bidets and like they're really clean, then like sure. But like in America, bro, some of these restrooms are nasty. Lamau, I didn't know it was a thing, but me too. I hate outside bathrooms. Yeah, it's kind of like homesickness in that regard. At first, your brain makes you remember the happy memories of your home and it urges you to go home in a natural way. Yeah, your brain remembers how clean it is when you take a dump at home compared to a bathroom at a gas station. But when reason stops you from achieving your desire, your brain starts sending unnatural signals to your body. As a result, your body gets weak, and that makes it more difficult for you to live in a strange land. In the end, you have to bend reason in order to achieve your desire to go home. You will never catch me using a porta potty or whatever the fuck it's called. Bro, I used to use porta potties all the time because of sports, right? Track meets all the time. The only way to go to the bathroom would be porta potties. We had no other choice. And bro, I have experienced, thank God, multiple times that I've seen this. I only had to piss instead of take a dump, but I have seen shit coming out of the porta potties. Like so much shit had piled up that it was like a fucking pyramid coming out of the fucking like the toilet. I was like, oh god, oh, I was like, and like fucking holding in my vomit like while pissing. Like that shit was so nasty, bro. Like I've had some meets that were county level, and because there were thousands and thousands of people and only a couple porta potties, like that. Oh. Anyways. So homesickness is born from our homing instincts. And the stronger one's homing instinct is, the stronger their homesickness. Fuck you, I'm eating. The strength of that homing instinct varies from individual to individual and depends on the environment in which those individuals live. When your home is safe and the environment you live is dangerous, your homing instinct grows stronger. On the other hand, when the environment you live in is safer than your homing instinct becomes very weak. Safety isn't the only element that affects its strength. Cultural aspects affect it too. The many customs demanding families to return home for major events varies with each region. So your birthplace's culture also alters the strength of your homing instinct. Amongst those regions, the transcendents of Onigafuchi village were believed to have an excessively strong homing instinct. The people of Onigafuchi forbade their fellows from ever leaving. Many believed this was the effect of the elitism and sense of purity I already mentioned before. People today still strongly believe that Oishiro-sama puts his curse on you if you break his rule and abandon the village. This superstition can be interpreted as homesickness. If homesickness is directly proportional to one's homing instinct, then the exaggerated expression curse would signify the strength of that homesickness, and also their homing instinct. I can assume that they hated the outside world and created an insular society precisely because of their powerful homing ability. Unfortunately, there's no way to measure the strength of the homing ability that the primitive people of Onigafuchi had. It was so strongly forbidden to leave the village that nobody left long enough to get homesick. However, after the Meiji era, things changed. The sacredness of Onigafuchi dwindled with the effort of modernization. Many young people started longing for city life, and some people were forced to leave the village to get a job. As a result, the villagers started venturing outside the village borders. That was when the transcendents of Onigafuchi realized how strong their homing ability was for the first time. The residents of Hinamizawa got extremely homesick. After a while, people started calling the homesickness the curse of Oyashiro-sama. It became rumored that a person who left the village to get a job in a strange land was cursed, that he went crazy and died, and people who had left the village started coming back to either it or the nearby town. Their homesickness and their homing ability were very strong because of their culture. It's reasonable to think that these were cultivated by the unique religion in Hinamizawa, namely the cult of Oyashiro-sama. Okay, I don't get this, partially because Rena's dad is from Hinamizawa, and bro did not get the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Unless you think his wife divorcing him was, but like that's clearly not what the curse does. From the moment they were born, they were taught the rules of Oyashiro-sama. They must have felt guilty about leaving the village unconsciously. As a result, they considered their homesickness to be part of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I'm not sure if their homesickness got stronger because of the rules of Oyashiro-sama, or if they made the rules of Oyashiro-sama because their homesickness got stronger. I don't know which came first. I got tired of reading such small print and lay down on the floor on my back. The true identity of the curse of Oyashiro-sama is homesickness? Mio-san believed my story and she let me read these scrapbooks. That's why I expected to find something interesting. But what it's saying is that the answer to it all is homesickness, which many doctors told me so many times at counseling. I'm a little upset. The words homesickness can't explain the extraordinary experience I had. Well, Rena, weren't you also on like psychoactive drugs? So like, that's probably why. I saw Oyashiro-sama come down to me from a bright light in the bathroom. I saw the dusty red, nasty maggots come out of my blood vessels. This scrapbook doesn't explain any of that. I don't understand how Mio-san was going to explain the cloud of maggots. Maybe she didn't have any explanation of that to begin with. Was it just a delusion? I flipped through one of the other scrapbooks Mio-san let me borrow, looking for an explanation of the maggots I saw. Then I found it. It had the exact title I was looking for. About maggots and the curse of Oyashiro-sama. In the Meiji era, a group of villagers were on their way back to Hinamizawa and they started discussing a rumor about a weird disease. They said that maggots started crawling out of the wounds of a person who left Hinamizawa and that the maggots ate the person's body from the inside. The Shinto priest at the Furude shrine at the time explained that the weird disease was a sign of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. According to tradition, the Shinto priest showed the villagers an ancient scroll, and he told them that the story of the maggots had been passed down through the ages. This is what the scroll said. The world where the demons came from must be interpreted as the land of the dead, and the demons in that land of the dead had to live their lives while being eaten by maggots. The villagers who were of the demons' blood had nothing to worry about as long as they lived in Hinamizawa under the protection of Oyashiro-sama. But once they left Hinamizawa, abandoning that protection, the maggots that had been sleeping in the blood of the demons would start to awaken and they'd eat their bodies from the inside out. This maggots disease scared the villagers for a while, and they asked the shrine to provide them with protective talismans whenever they had to leave the village on business. This is interesting as it's similar to the way homesickness was dealt with by the Swiss in the Middle Ages. After the war started, the delusion of the maggot disease faded away, but there remained a custom to send talismans to families that lived away from Hinamizawa. Talismans had the word maggot on them, but the most interesting part about all this is that the residents of Hinamizawa didn't know about the maggot disease until the rumors began. I thought that their unconscious worship made those people think of homesickness as a curse. So this case of the previously unknown maggot disease directly contradicted the research I had done so far. It's natural to think that the group of people who were on their way back to the village were lost in a mass delusion because they strongly believed in the curse, and that the Shinto priests took advantage of their state of panic to instill a deeper faith in them. But I'm not fully convinced that it was merely a coincidence that this mass delusion matched with the story in the old picture scroll. I wonder if it's possible to see maggots in a wound without having the prerequisite knowledge when a person is cursed by Oyashiro-sama. I wish Oyashiro-sama would put his curse on someone I could study. I'd love to see those maggots coming out of someone. What the fuck? I felt as if Mio-san was here making the request of me. I remember when she gave me the scrapbook, she said that I might be the only one who could understand. The only other person we know who could have had this maggot thing was Tomitake, who died ripping his own neck out. And Tomitake was with Takano, who specifically says she wishes she could see maggots coming out of someone. And let's be honest, if Mio has this much research and she worked at the clinic, there's a chance, and the reason why I say there's a chance that she might have had access to the drug that Rika used is because if you remember, right, Irie, when he saw the body, he was saying, "This is impossible, 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 impossible." And I don't think he was saying it's impossible for someone to rip out their throat. I think he was saying impossible to the fact that somebody could have had that drug. Right? And I think Takano somehow got the fucking drug and administered it to Tomitake to see what would happen. You know? I don't even think it's that crazy of a theory. I think it's very believable. She worked at the clinic, right? Which is like the main clinic that everybody in Hinamizawa goes to, right? So she has access to drugs and medicine, you know? And it's clear that Rika and this drug already exists, because remember the previous chapter when Rika actually got the injection because Shion overpowered her and injected her, she cut out her own throat too, right? So, I mean, I felt good just for a moment because I found out that the maggots weren't a delusion. Back at the same day, but at the same time, where did I read back at the same day? But at the same time, it destroyed my excuse that it was a delusion. The maggots weren't a delusion, they were there. All of a sudden, my wrists, elbows, inner thighs, and neck started itching. I felt the urge to cut open a blood vessel, but I quietly, what the fuck? Held it down. I remember that Mio-san looked very serious when I talked about the maggots. She must have thought it was creepy, but so did I. While I was crying because nobody believed me, a part of me didn't want to believe that my body was filled with those creepy things. I think a part of me wanted to believe that it was a delusion. But now I know it wasn't. It wasn't a delusion. There are some people who had the same experience. Maggots in the demon's blood will awaken when you lose the protection of Oyashiro-sama. In other words, they may not awaken under the protection of Oyashiro-sama. But all the villagers still have the maggots in them without knowing it. People of the demon blood are people who have the creepy maggots in their bodies. I try not to jump to conclusions and flip the pages again. I unconsciously look for something related to the maggots. About parasites and control of the host. The maggot disease made me think about something. Is it possible to say that the extremely strong homesickness of Hinamizawa was an infectious disease caused by some kind of parasite? I'm not trying to connect the maggots with they saw with parasites. I'm trying to think about the possibility that their culture, their religion might be associated with an infectious disease. Many infectious diseases are caused unintentionally by parasites. A parasite's host is literally its home. It wants to... It wants to live within the host's body for as long as it can. The best way to do that is to coexist with the host without the host knowing it. But some parasites try to control their hosts and use them for prosperity. For example, some parasites have an ability to control their hosts. In order to force them to be eaten by a superior host. A typical example is the Dicrocolium dendriticum. It uses snails or ants as intermediate hosts, and it forces them to move to the upper side of vegetation so that it's easier for a superior host to consume it. Dicrocolium dendriticum. One parasite that is this the parasite that makes snails' eyeballs turn into like a thing that looks like a plant for other insects? I think it's that one. The Dicrocolium. I think it's this one. Snail. Yeah, it is this one. It makes their eyeballs look like fucking, like, pieces of candy, bro. And then, like, birds see it and it's like, ooh, it's a caterpillar. Oh. And then the birds eat it and they're like, and then they have the parasite in their body. Yeah. No, that's actually what it is. It turns the snail's eyeball to look like a caterpillar, and birds want to eat it. So they, like, the snails literally go up. The parasite makes the snail go up to, like, high leaves and stuff, and they like do a little dance. It's like, eat us, and then the birds see it and it's like, yum. Anyways, one parasite that controls more complicated animals is called Toxoplasma gondii. It uses mice as intermediate hosts, with the superior host being cats. This parasite makes a mouse lose its fear of cats in order to increase its chance of getting eaten, so that the parasite can live within a cat instead. There are parasites that choose hosts at random. The rabies virus is commonly known for that. It lives and breeds in the brain of a host, and it moves into the host's saliva through the salivary glands. It makes the host extremely aggressive in order to make it bite things randomly so that it can turn in turn can move into other hosts or saliva. By the way, isn't that so insane that something, if a parasite like that evolved to know where in the brain it needs to go to force like a host to want to bite other, like that shit's crazy, man. Like life is crazy. That's what rabies does. Many parasites have a similar ability to control hosts to their benefit. The examples I used above are about parasites that move into other hosts to prosper. Bro, we exist? Yeah, but humans are kind of lame because the coolest part of us is our brain. Like, everything else about us is kind of lame, low-key. Like, our brain is really, really fucking impressive. But, like, we don't got, like, like, bro, like, we're not, like, the fastest animals. We're not, like, the strongest animals. We're, like, we can't fly. Like, we have to rely on our brains to create, like, devices that can enable us to do all those things, you know? Like, now, obviously, the brain is OP, but I'm saying, if you're barehanded against a fucking silverback gorilla, your brain ain't fucking helping you in that situation, alright? We're going back into the 100 men versus 1 silverback gorilla. We have crazy stamina. Yeah, so does the silverback gorilla, man. But I think there must be some kind of parasite that controls its host in order to have a comfortable environment in which to live. I want to try to connect this theory to the abnormal homing ability and homesickness of the Onigafuchi residents. Chat, you guys don't know, but our ancestors, like the Australopithecus, Homo erectus, stuff like that, a lot of them got hunted actively by specific predators back then. Right? Like, humans were not at the top of the food chain. Like, sure, if you got a whole group of humans, they could almost hunt anything, but there were still humans that still got hunted by other, you know, predators. So, like, it took us a long-ass time to fucking get to the top of the food chain. We have the opposable thumbs, and we have the most stamina. The men are slaughtering the gorilla, by the way. Gorillas have opposable thumbs, too. And there's no way a human being has more stamina than a silverback gorilla. Let's say there's some kind of parasite that exists in Hinamizawa and lives within all the villagers' bodies. I do, chat. Half you motherfuckers sit here 6 hours a day watching my bum ass. No way you have more stamina than a silverback gorilla. Shut up. For the parasite, Himizawa is the most comfortable environment to live in, so it gives the host a strong homing ability in order to make them stay in Himizawa. Race me right now, 2,400 meters. Which horse? Which horse? Furthermore, it controls the host to get homesick whenever they ignore this homing ability and try to leave. Parasites need hosts in which to live. It's convenient for them if their hosts build a community in the environment where it feels comfortable. This theory makes it easier for me to explain the mysteries I described earlier. The transcendents of Onigafuchi knew about the existence of this parasite. They knew that as hosts to the parasites, they couldn't live outside the village. That's why they created culture and rules that prohibited contact with the outside world. It also explains why people acted so abnormal during the Kam conflict. So the demons that came out of the swamp in the legend of Oishiro-sama can be interpreted as the mass spread of the parasite. Okay, you know what? Why this fucking parasite shit don't make sense though? Right? What if, because I'm sure there's some people that live in Hinamizawa who weren't, their ancestors originally weren't from Hinamizawa, and the people that now live here, or that they still live here, their parents didn't like intermingle with Hinamizawans, and all of their blood is outside of Hinamizawa. But like, what about them? Do they not have demon blood? You know, I don't know. The story about the demons attacking the villagers must be a metaphor for the behavior of the infected villagers who were controlled by the parasites. Is this actually the conclusion that Rena reached here? Or no, we're reading Takano's dumbass scrapbook. This theory is too crazy. I should have just laughed about it. Chat, I have this theory that Takano has a scrapbook that literally just is like, has every possible fucking conspiracy theory in the universe in it. So if you are someone who requires confirmation bias and are looking for something to give you that bias and read her scrapbook, it gives it to you because she has every unbelievable nonsensical thing in her book. No. Am I wrong? Right? Look what happened to Shion. Shion read the book and she found exactly what she needed to reinforce her ideas. Rena reading the book and now she's getting things that reinforce. Bro, she's literally got a gaslight scrapbook. It's literally created to gaslight people into thinking what their crazy minds are thinking is correct and then make them do nonsensical things. Yeah, I think Takano literally has like this is like the equivalent of the fucking what is like the book of evil? What is it called? It's not the Necronomicon. Is it? Is it? Maybe it is. I don't remember. I should have just laughed about it. But I felt bad for Mio-san, so I decided not to. It is? Oh, okay. Whenever I say Necronomicon, I usually think of the fucking item in League of Legends, so I'm not sure if it's a real thing. But I remember it is, but yeah. Hinamizawa is controlled by a parasite. You could use that theory to explain how the maggots came out of me. I felt a little bit dizzy. I was so confused, and a part of me thought it was ridiculous. And another part of me thought it was more convincing than any curse. But Mio-san was probably erased because she wrote these scrapbooks. If so, the contents of these scrapbooks must be something that they can't ignore. They try to get all of her scrapbooks and consign them to oblivion. What if they notice some of her scrapbooks are missing? I felt a chill running through my spine. I have to keep it a secret that I have these scrapbooks, and I'll have to try to understand more about their contents. I remember Mio-san told me that the three families are behind a series of the mysterious deaths, and that they're trying to resurrect the cult of Oyashiro-sama. According to the theory I just read, the parasite must be trying to maintain the current environment of Hinamizawa. The healthiest environment for it is a completely closed village, just like the primitive Onigafuchi. It must be very comfortable for the parasite if no hosts go outside the village. They don't even like that the villagers often leave the village to go shopping. That means the parasite would try to goad hosts into resurrecting the cult of Oyashiro-sama. I remember there was an article in the scrapbook saying that the demon's blood runs thickest in the three families. That would mean that they have a larger amount of parasite in them than the other villagers, and that they're under its control. Yeah, but see, this again doesn't make sense because Shion's bitch ass doesn't even live in Hinamizawa, and she's lived outside of it for a long ass time. The three families seem to be planning to bring the village back to the Onigafuchi era. Reviving the Watanagashi festival after the dam conflict can be interpreted as their desire to revive the faith that had started to fade away in the Meiji era. The three families, especially the Sonozaki family, have a great influence over the region and the public organizations. What's going on here? I thought this to be a poorly written theory, but the pieces fit together one after another. I've never played a jigsaw puzzle as crazy as this. I felt my brain swirling due to its absurd theory. A part of me thought this was ridiculous, and another part of me thought I might be about to expose an unbelievable truth. Bro, she's getting gaslit into thinking her conspiracy theories are real by this stupid scrapbook. And the thing is, I swear, even in Shion's case, right? Where both of them thought the scrapbook had to be even more serious because Takano dies. Like, but maybe that's just how evil Takano is. Maybe she fakes her death, plants the seeds of doubt in either Keiichi, Shion, Rena, whoever it is, and then just watches from afar as to what happens, you know? When I tried to look into the center of it, I felt as if I was going to fall into the whirlpool and drown. Like, each person that she basically infects with this, like, nonsense is an experiment for her. I'll have to devote myself to reading more seriously. There must be some truth to this. It caused misfortune and made my life miserable after I moved to Ibaraki. I might be able to find the truth, including the cause of my parents' divorce and my desperate behavior. Your parents got divorced because your fucking mom was a hoe. There's no other reason, Rena. When are you gonna understand this? She really keeps thinking there's like a other reason for why they got divorced. Right then, I heard a knock on the door all of a sudden, scaring me. I hid the scrapbooks under a cushion.
Reina, 電話が来てるぞ。
電話？こんな時間に？誰だろう？
本屋さんからだぞ。本の取り寄せとか頼んだのか？沖宮書房の大石さんって人からだ。
What? Why would Oishi order her books, though? I opened the windows, but all they let in was heat and cries of the cicadas.
味ね。
It was break time between classes, but we couldn't really get any rest. Mion and I leaned on our desks, exhausted by the heat. The younger kids sure are tough, considering how the heat wasn't bothering them at all. They were running around the classroom despite the temperature.
やっぱりさ、都会の学校だと教室にもクーラーとか入ってるわけ？
そんなことねえぞ。あるのはせいぜい職員室ぐらいだな。
うわぁ、それは羨ましいね。
Yeah, that shit ass too. Bro, when I went to middle school in South Korea, we'd only have one fucking tower AC in the back of the fucking room. So if you the closer you were to that, the nicer it was. And then if that broke during the summer, oh my god, your entire classroom died.
生徒みんなで職員室を襲って占拠とかしないの？
その辺の発想が実にミオン臭い。ああ。
And then I went to American schools that have full central air. I'm like, this shit's heaven. I didn't even have the energy to laugh. Mion and I stopped talking and used our notebooks to fan ourselves. I looked at the empty seat nearby. It was Rena's. Rena didn't come to school today. Oh shit. She called and told Chia-sensei she couldn't come because she's sick.
レナのやつ、
Didn't even have AC in
最
your
近
class?
元気ない
Damn.
よな。
だね。暑さにやられたのかもね。
なあ、本気で暑さでやられたと思ってるのか？
そう思ってるけど。
例の一件がさ。
かもね。それに暑さも加わって夏バテでも起こしたんじゃないかな。
I can't even imagine how distressing it was for her to commit a murder, dismember the bodies, and get caught by her friends. We took each other's hands at that place and we were united. All of us believed that we had closed the case there and had regained our peace. But was that as easy for Rena as it was for us? She must have not quite recovered yet.
おじさんはみんなで楽しく遊んでればそのうち元気になると思ってたんだけどね。そこまで心の傷が浅くなかったってことかな。
こういう時さ、どうしたらレナを元気づけられるかな？
多分ほっとくのが一番じゃないかな。
おいおい、そんなのでいいのかよ。俺たち仲間だろ？
ほら、ホームシックってあるじゃない？
Whoa.
あれもね、ちょっと寂しいからって言って
Why are you saying that,
実家
Mion?
に電話なんかかけちゃうと一気に発症しちゃうらしいよ。寂しい時はぐっと耐えて、例えばスポーツにでも打ち込んで気分転換を図るのが一番なんだってさ。
気分転換させてやりたくても、あいつ最近部活に加わらないし。
レナはどうか知らないけどさ、人には甘えたい欲ってのがあるんだよ。そばに支えてくれる人や同情してくれる人がいると甘えたくなる欲、慰めてくれる人が現れるとさ、際限なく甘えちゃうことってない？
どうだろうな。
際限なく甘えるってことは相手の同情をより深く得ようとするってこと。そうするとケイちゃんは慰めてるつもりなのに相手はどんどん落ち込んでいっちゃうことがあるんだよね。慰められて甘えられる、これに味を占めると不幸に酔うのが癖になる。レナもその辺分かってるからわざと一人になろうとしてるんじゃない？
No, it's because that bastard Oishi's doing something.
慰めや甘えが目的だったら私たちのそばにいて涙を流せば済むわけだし。
じゃあ落ち込んでるレナをどう励ますばいいんだよ。
女の心情としては辛さを励ましてくれるより忘れさせてくれる方が嬉しいね。
慰めるな、励ますな。なんだよ、お手上げじゃないかよ。
慰めるな励ますなは心理カウンセラーの鉄則だって知ってる？結局心の傷ってのは自分で治すようにできてる。周りの人
How
が
the
治
fuck
した
does
と
Mio
して
know all
も
this?
それは本当の完治じゃない。だからレナが自分で元気になるのを私たちは見守るしかないんだよ、きっと。
理屈じゃ理解できるが、なんだか薄情な気がして好きになれねえな。
I clasped my hands behind the back of my head and looking at the ceiling. Mion laughed.
それだけレナのことを心配してくれるケイちゃんが身近にいるなら、レナは大丈夫だよ。立ち直れるよ。
近くにいるだけでか？うさんくさいな。
圭一にだってできることがありますですよ。
Rika-chan spoke up. I wonder how long she'd been listening to our
俺に
conversation.
もできることがあるのか？
レナが話したいと思った時や打ち明けたいと思った時に静かに聞いてあげることなのです。
聞くだけでいいのか？励まさなくていいのかよ。
ケイちゃん、打ち明けるだけで心が軽くなるもんだよ。静かに耳を傾けるのが何よりも嬉しい時ってある。
ミーの言う通りなのですよ。レナが話したいと思った時、いつでも話しかけられる場所にいてあげるのもきっと仲間として大切なことなのだと思いますです。
Mion and Rika-chan were absolutely right. I was going to pat Rena on her shoulder and tell her to cheer up when I saw her next, but now I know that would have been a one-sided on my part. Rena doesn't want to feel down herself. She wants to cheer up if at all possible. If I cheered her up irresponsibly, she'd be very disappointed because she'd think that I didn't understand her pain.
そうだな。俺、ちょっと人の心ってやつを理解しようとしてなかったな。レナを励ましたいのは、俺の欲求であって、レナの求めることじゃない。ありがとな、二人とも。俺、ひょっとすると、今日まで何か勘違いをしてたかもしれないぜ。
On that day, I thought I cheered her up, but I started to doubt if I had reached her heart. I might have just been dragging her someplace where I wanted her to go. I wasn't on her side in the real sense of the term. All of a sudden, Rika-chan patted my head.
圭一は一番のレナの味方ですよ。それは疑わなくて大丈夫なのです。
俺、また考え事を口に出しちまってたのか？
レナの心には届いてるよ。ケイちゃんはあの日、とても強い力をレナに与えたんだからさ。いやー、でもさ、よくよく思い出すとすっごい恥ずかしいこと言ってたよね。
We heard footsteps from the hallway and everybody started to head back to their desks.
お待たせしました。それでは委員長、ご起立。
We didn't have a club meeting that day because Rena wasn't around. That worked out for me because I had an errand to run. It wasn't a big errand. My mom wanted me to use her point card to get some detergent. I didn't see the point of going all the way to the store just to get detergent, but my mom told me to go because she's busy helping my dad with his work. I started walking towards the shopping center. I noticed someone was watching me hiding behind a distant tree. I wonder who would do such a mischievous thing. I stared at them to find out who it was, at which point they emerged.
レナじゃねえか。
Are you feeling better now? I was about to say that, but I swallowed the words. Somehow Rena looked very serious.
どうしたんだ？
Rena put the index finger to her lips, told me to be quiet, looked around carefully, and beckoned for me to come over. I had no idea what was going on, but I followed her instructions, shut my mouth, and ran to her. Rena gestured for me to squat down to hide in the shadow of the bush. I didn't know why I had to do that, but I could ask her the question later. I just followed her orders for now. Rena looked like she was making sure no one was following her. If it was Mion, she'd do something like this just to fool me as a joke, but I know Rena doesn't do things like this for fun. I had no idea what kind of situation I gotten myself into, but I could feel how tense it was, and I made myself as small as I could.
もういいよ。ごめんね。
The tone of her voice made me relax a little.
どうしたってんだよ、一体。
多分私、誰かに最近後をつけられているの。
Uh-oh.
なんだって？
Who would follow her? When I thought about it, I realized how stupid the question
ま
was.
さか警察かよ。
Rina, Mamiya, and Teppei Hojo. 2 people disappeared. Even though they were awful human beings, the police had to investigate if they found out that they'd gone missing. It probably wouldn't be difficult to find out that Rina had often been to Rena's house. But it should be okay. As long as they don't find those bags, it should be okay.
警察なのか警察じゃないのかわからないけれど、綿流しの夜以降、誰かにずっと見られている気がするの。
どういうことだよ。
Once I asked that question, Rena stared directly at me with a blank expression. Her eyes looked as though they were evaluating me. She stared at me as if she was assessing whether I was worth talking to about something very important. Rena squeezed her own wrist tightly, then started talking in a whisper.
話してもいいけど、誰にも内緒にできる？
ああ、もちろんだぜ。レナがそうしろってんなら誰にも喋らない。
圭一君なら信用できるよ。
She smiled and looked around one more time.
連中はひょっとするとミオさんのスクラップ帳を探しているのかもしれないの。
Oh God.
ミオさんで、ああ、看護師の高野さんのことか。あとスクラップ帳って何のことだ？
秘密の捜査になっているって言ってたから、多分圭一君は知らないよね。高野美代さん殺されたんだって。
いつ？
She told me to be quiet again. I lowered my voice and let her continue.
綿流しの夜、私たちは美代さんと、あと富武さんに会ったよね。あの直後に2人が襲われたんだって。富武さんはお社様のたたりにあって喉をかきむしって死んだ。美代さんは岐阜の山中で焼き殺されていたと言ってたの。
それ本当かよ？そんなの誰も知らないぞ。
それは警察が伏せて捜査をしてるからなの。ひなみ沢村連続開始事件は今年で5年目になっちゃうでしょ。だから変に騒がれたくないんで事件を公にしていないんだって。
なるほど。秘密捜査なのは分かったが、レナはそんな話
内緒だよ。私実は大石っていう沖宮署の刑事さんと連絡を取り合っているの。その人に教えてもらった。
どうして大石って人がレナに？
さあ、ちょっとそこはわからない。彼が言うには私なら信用できそうだからって言うんだけどね。
It's the same reason he chose Keiichi the first time, because Keiichi was the new one, so he thought Keiichi would be the least connected to the others. And this time Rena seemed like she was the most dejected, so I was dumbfounded to hear all this, but I knew she wasn't lying. If it was Mion, she'd be sticking her tongue out by now, but Rena wouldn't make a joke out of something like this.
美代さんが殺された理由
Because
は
at the Watanagashi festival,
彼女の研究
Oishi
のせい
was
だと思うの。
evaluating the group of kids, and he saw that Rena was standing back from everybody else and looking down. So he thought that Rena was like the odd one out.
美代さんがこの村の歴史とか民族学とかそういうのを熱心に調べてたってのは知っている？
なんとなくは聞いたことある。
Takano-san was interested in the occult and in mysterious things. I remember Mion once told me that she was studying the village legend of men eating demons out of
彼
curiosity.
女は多分その研究の中でこの村に関するある重要な秘密を知ってしまったの。あるいは彼女はそんなにも確信には踏み入ってなかったのかもしれないけど、そうは思われなかったんだろうね。
ちょっと待て。この村の秘密ってなんだよ？
私はミオさんのスクラップ帳をほんの数冊借りて読んだだけ。でも彼女が特に大事にしていた秘蔵の数冊だからかなり重要なことが記してあったと思う。だから多分ミオさんが至ろうとしていたことに8割方ぐらいは近づいていると思うの。でもあまりに突拍子もなくて私にはまだ信じられない。ミオさんの想像が正しいかどうか検証してる段階なの。
で、何なんだ一体？秘密を知ると殺されるっていうこの村の秘密ってのは。
I gasped the moment those words left my mouth. If Rena told me, I might get killed too.
圭一君にはまだ全部話したくない。確証が持てたら話すね。
Well, how are you gonna verify it? Is she gonna go kill a Hinamizawan? Like hatchet them in the fucking face and see if they bleed maggots?
だってそれくらいに途方もないとんでもない話だから。
確証ってなんだよ？
例えば予備知識のない内訳については私自らはその存在を検証できているけど、他にもたくさん未検証のことがあるの。
He's like, what the fuck is a maggot
それ
disease?
らを埋めていかないと私ですらにわかには信じられない。
Maggots? I was totally lost now and I wanted to ask her some questions but decided not to cut in. It was so hot outside. Verena held her arms as if she was
レナ
cold.
俺はいつだってお前の味方なんだからな。俺だけは信用してくれて構わない。
ありがとう。その一言がすごい嬉しい。
From her expression alone, I could tell that she really meant it. I could also tell that she was involved in something very big and that she felt lonely because she couldn't tell anybody else about it. I had to be on her side while she was going through a difficult time.
私とね、今日ここで出会ったことは内緒にした方がいいと思うの。私と接触があったことが知られたら、圭一君にも危害が及ぶかもしれないから。
わかった。俺に何か協力できることはないのかよ。
今はない。でも協力をお願いできることが分かっただけで、今の私には心強いよ。最後には頼らせて。
She probably thinks Keiichi's dependable because he's not a Hinamizawan. He only moved here.
任せとけ。
し、車が来る。
Rena pushed my head into the bush. I went along with it and crouched down even lower in the bushes. We stayed quiet for a while. I could hear a car coming closer, and after a while, a white van passed by. I was surprised at her hearing. She heard the car coming when it was still far off in the distance.
今の車、ナンバー見えた？
いや、ごめん。見えなかった。
私もちょっと見えなかったけど、多分さっきと同じナンバーの車だと思うの。
その、レナを尾行しているとかいう連中か？
多分、普段車なんか通らない道で、今日は何度も追い上げられるの。その度に、私は隠れてやり過ごしているからいいんだけど。
そいつらなのか？高野さんたちを殺して、レナが持ってるスクラップ帳を狙っているという連中は。
多分。
Bro, this whole scrapbook shit is such bullshit. It has nothing to do with the fucking scrapbook. I don't blame her for not being able to believe what's going on because this is really crazy. Takano-san uncovered something really significant through her studies. The people who want that information hidden found out about it, and they killed her on the night of Watanagashi, copying the curse of Oyoshiro-sama. They're looking for the scrapbooks, the fruit of her research, and Rena has them. That's why they're trying to kill Rena.
じゃあ、レナの家が危ないってことはないのか？
大丈夫。スクラップ帳はゴミ山の私の隠れ家に隠してある。お父さんが不安だけど、何も知らないからこそ何も危害が及ばないかもしれない。圭一君が言わなくても顔に書いてあるよ。突拍子もない話でとても信じられない。
I wanted to deny it, but I felt bad to lie and remained silent in the affirmative.
それが当然の反応。私だってミオさんのスクラップ帳を読み始めた最初はなんだこりゃって思って全然信じられなかったもの。すべてに目を通してようやく何かの筋が見えてきたんだもん。
すまん。もちろんレナの味方になりたいのは本心だ。でも話が全然見えないんで、どう助けてやればいいかわかんないんだ。
話せば圭一君の身にも危険が降りかかるよ。
レナにはすでに降りかかってるんだろ？ならおあいこだぜ。気にするな。
わかった。話す。多分ミオさんたちを殺したのはひなみ沢御三家。
Oh shit, now she doesn't trust Mion and Rika now. Are these Satoko's technically safe?
もっとはっきり言ってしまえば、みーちゃんの家である。その
どうして？
圭一君も過去の連続開始事件は知ってるよね。
New music?
ああ、ダム戦争の時の村の旧敵ばかりが毎年犠牲になっていくっていうあれだろ？
この連続開始事件はダム戦争の生産のようなものなの。村の裏切り者を片付けることによって本当の意味でダム戦争を終わらせようとする。
I think Higurashi should just be called confirmation bias. Every single chapter where things go to shit, they get like confirmation bias on something that they already pseudo believe, and they see one fucking scrapbook that makes them think that what they're thinking is right, and they go crazy.
確かにそう見えないことはないよな。誰もがはっきりと口にはしないが、うすうすと園崎家の仕業だと疑ってるみたいな話は聞いたことあるぜ。
でも裏切り者を制裁するなら別に綿流しの場にこだわらなくてもいいんじゃない？毎年たたりで一人、鬼隠しで一人なんてスローペースで殺す必要はない。そうでしょ？
I've never heard the word demoning away before, but Rena clearly thought they had some kind of creepy significant meaning, so I decided not to cut in.
つまりこれらの連続開始事件は綿流しの祭りに神聖性を取り戻そうとする意志があるの。もっと踏み込んで言うと、明治以降に失われた鬼ヶ淵村の神聖性を取り戻すための段階的イベント。彼らは最終的には太古の昔にそうだったような原理的なお社様信仰を復活させることを目的としている。
お社様信仰、古出神社のことか？
そう、古出神社って崇められていると思う？お年寄りの人は敬っているけど、それだけだよね。子供たちは境内を遊び場くらいにしか思ってないし、ほとんどの村人たちも地域の集会所くらいにしか思っていない。その神聖性は失われている。それがダム戦争をきっかけに蘇ったの。彼らはそれをお社様信仰を復活させるいい機会だと捉えた。
ってことはつまりお社様信仰の狂信者たちが裏で暗躍しているってことか？
そういうこと。そもそもお社様信仰は御三家によって管理されていた。だから御三家には現代にも脈々とお社様信仰を復活させなければならないという至上目的が受け継がれているの。それを思えば御三家がダム戦争中に村を一丸にまとめたり、廃れかけていたお社様を引き合いに出し、古出神社にわざわざ同盟事務所を設けた理由も透けて見えてくる。
じゃあひなみ沢村連続開始事件ってのはひなみいやお社様を信仰する狂信的な集団の仕業なら待てよ、どうして高野さんが殺されなきゃならないんだ？
それは御三家が鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれた太古からずっと隠してきた。それを暴かれるとお社様という神の神聖性が失われる。
That there's parasites in their blood? Like, does Rena think nobody in Hinamizawa has had a fucking like blood test?
だから彼らはミオさんの研究が確信に近づいたことを知り消したの。
その重大な秘密ってのは何なんだ？それを知ると俺も狙われるってんだろうけど。
だからそれはまだ言いたくない。私自身が10割の確証を得るまで言いたくない。多分今ここで話しても圭一君は耐えきれなくなって笑い出してしまうに違いないもの。
おいおい、俺がそんな奴に見えるかよ。
もう少し時間が欲しいの。あまりの事実に私ですら受け入れきれていないの。だからもう少し時間を欲しいの。お願い。
わかった。
今日ここで話したことは誰にも喋っちゃダメだよ。みーちゃんとリカちゃん、もちろんさとこちゃんにもダメ。
I don't really get it though. Teppei was from Hinamizawa as well. Right? He was uncle to the Hojo. He's part of the Hojo family who has been in Hinamizawa. So when she chopped up Teppei and didn't see any maggots coming out of his blood, shouldn't that already be confirmation?
わかったよ。
じゃあ圭一君はもう行って。私はもう少し辺りを伺ってから行く。用心に過ぎるということはないからね。
Rena ducked low in the bushes and moved away. I was left alone there. The cries of the cicadas surrounded around me, making it seem as if I was alone there the whole time. Started walking, still dumbfounded. In the end, Rena didn't tell me the secret because she was afraid of putting me in danger. But she told me clearly that there are people who want to resurrect the cult of Oyashiro-sama, and that they're among the 3 families that control the entire village. They orchestrated the series of mysterious deaths for that purpose, and they killed Takono-san because she got too close to the secret they wanted to hide. Rena met Takono-san and happened to obtain the scrapbook in which Takono-san wrote about her research. Rena still can't believe the secret written in the scrapbooks because it's just too crazy. Hey, come on, Rena. You're kidding me, right? It's like one of those comic book stories. A mysterious occult group is plotting a conspiracy. I mean, it's not funny, even if it's a joke. Rena's right about one thing. Even if this is true, it's really hard to believe. I understand why Rena wanted to wait to tell me the secret. Maybe she was just fooled by Takano-san. But Takano-san was murdered for real. So is it also true that someone is following Rena looking for the scrapbooks? I remember Rena said that a white van was following her. You can see white vans anywhere. Wait, there was also a white van following Keiichi that time. But there are a lot in this village alone. She might just be oversensitive to everything right now. Rena hasn't recovered from the shock since that day. That's probably why she got the idea into her head that the police or someone else is coming after her. I didn't cut in while she was talking. I think I did the right thing. If I had said that it was ridiculous or something to her face, Rena wouldn't have trusted me ever again. At that point, however, I gasped. A white van was parked on the side of the street. I wasn't sure if this was the same car that passed by earlier since I didn't see the plate number, but the number of people in the car and the ambience of it was similar to the one earlier. And there's one other thing that looks suspicious about it. There was no reason to park here. It was on a small road in the middle of the woods. There's nothing around here. No traffic lights, no vending machines, and no public phones. I probably wouldn't notice it under ordinary circumstances, but I felt something was wrong. And once I noticed how odd it was definitely suspicious. There were 4 men in work uniforms in a white van. The driver was smoking a cigarette, but the other men were just sitting there doing nothing. If they wanted to take a break or have a smoke, they could have chosen a better place than here. It was possible that they stopped because they had to go to the bathroom really badly, but it didn't seem that way either. They didn't look as comfortable or relaxed like they would if they were taking a break. They looked like they were waiting for something to happen. There was a deep tension in that car. Could they possibly be waiting for Rena? No way. I didn't see anybody walking around here. This road is a back road. Nobody really uses this road, let alone a car. But it's impossible. I felt bad for Rena to even think about it, but this must be happening, something that she got into her head because she's feeling victimized or something. She must be imagining things because she's still nervous from when her friends caught her in the act of killing Rina and Tepe.
兄ちゃん、
Oh shit. I heard someone say that when I passed by the van. He couldn't mean me, and he didn't even know who I was, so I assumed he was talking to one of the other people in the car. I pretended I didn't hear him, and I kept walking by, and then he said it again, and honked the horn as well.
兄ちゃん、すまんね。
Wait, doesn't this sound like one of the kidnappers from... Sounds like one of the kidnappers from the, They kidnapped the fucking minister's son, or grandson. Hmm.
学校の帰りかいね。
He had a strong accent similar to that of the older villagers. He must live here, but I don't know him. I could tell he didn't know me either because he didn't call me by my
はい
name.
そうですけど。
兄ちゃん、学校からこの道をずっと歩いてきたんで、ちょうど文房具屋の角を曲がって。
そうですけど、何か？
They were probably lost, I thought. This village has many small turns and you can easily get lost when you try to take a shortcut. So they must have been waiting for someone to ask for directions. But then he said something disturbing.
兄ちゃんさ、この道の途中で女の子に会わんかったかいね。
え、
白い帽子に白い服を着た女の子なんよ。紫のリボンもついとん。会わんかったかいね。
They were definitely talking about Rena.
いえ、会ってないです。
I wasn't ready to hear them ask that. Rather, I was scared. That's why my voice got all shaky. Up until that point, I couldn't believe Rena's story. I thought it was ridiculous. I actually laughed, if only to myself. That's why I wasn't ready at all. My heart was beating fast and I was sweating all over. I immediately answered, no, I didn't, but it might have sounded like an obvious lie. The driver stared into my eyes. He looked like he was trying to figure out if I was lying or not, and my legs started to shake. I felt like a frog under the glare of a snake, and I couldn't move a muscle for a while. But I think the same went for those men too. They were clearly a suspicious group, and they had just asked a villager about a girl out of the blue. No, anybody would get suspicious. And I was right. The man broke the ice and started making excuses before I even asked him why he wanted to know about the girl.
ああ、そんな深い意味はないんで。さっき女の子を追い抜いたのによ。来たのが男の子だったから あん
そうですか。
忘れてえな。ごめんな、兄ちゃん。うちらもう行くんて。
The man started the engine and drove away. After they left, I saw nothing. That's right, nothing. There was no reason why they had to park here. So, were they really waiting for Rena? Uh-oh.
Cinema.
Hey, Trick 5G, thank you for the 7 months. Ooh. And that looks like not even 6 hours in. Well, chat, I haven't seen Lily in 2 days because she's been having a fucking 2-night sleepover with her friends. So I'm gonna go see Lily. Yes, sir. Didn't you have dinner with her yesterday? No, I didn't. I was originally supposed to, but she freaking stayed over her friend's house. So yes, sir. Oh wait, hold up. Wait. One more. Disturbing her peace? What do you mean? Furthermore, it's important that we closely monitor her father. Bro got homesickness with Lily. That's right. Since he has also suffered mental shock from the divorce and he has been trying hard to take care of the patient, there's a strong possibility that he may develop an induced delusional disorder. As the first step, this shit don't even fit in. As a first step of mental care, one should listen to the patient's story carefully without denying it. That's the most basic of basics. However, when the patient and the listener are related, it's easy for the listener to become deeply influenced by the patient's delusions. Additionally, delusional parasitosis is widely known to make people highly impressionable, and the influence sometimes can spread throughout a whole community. Therefore, even if several people claim to acquire a parasitic infection, it doesn't necessarily prove the existence of a parasite. Some of the phone calls to the healthcare centers for the extermination of pests are nothing but a mass delusion. Since the subject matter of the delusion in this case is extremely rabid, the patient might harm or even kill each other in abnormal ways. Believing this to be treatment for the disease, they might also give up hope and commit suicide together in the worst case. This influential delusional disorder, otherwise known as shared psychotic disorder, shows a particularly strong possibility of influencing close companions. Anyone who is going to contact the patient must be made to understand that the patients are under medical treatment and must be warned not to be influenced by the patient's delusions. Individuals who are likely to be easily influenced are the patient's family members and people who deeply care about the patient, such as boyfriends or girlfriends. So is Keiichi getting influenced by Rena's delusions? Alright. Well, chat. That's gonna be it for today. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My streamer changed? What do you mean, bro? It's still 6 hours. I just arrived. Alright, chat. Thank you guys for hanging out. As always. I'll see y'all tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Monday. Oh boy. Remember, chat, if you guys want me to do your unipolls, just DM me on Discord. I'll add you to the list. And yeah, let's see. Maybe we could get a raid in here. I'll send you guys over to Charimu. I'll send y'all over to Charimu. Have a good night, everybody. Good night, good night. To tomorrow, really? I ain't promising shit. Eat my ass. Bye-bye.